Here on Sunday, the 5th of July. Today in the news, Gorodea get a draw. Warriors back in the winner's circle. And we have news for you from the NZM or Sal's NBL, the ANZ Premiership, and Dan Carter's big comeback, as well as obviously bringing you up to date with all the Super Rugby action from last night. This is your best way to start the day, up to date with all of the important sports news here on New Zealand Sports Radio. And let's kick off with that football news. Over in the English Premiership, we've got 4 matches. Norwich lost at home to Brighton and Hove Albion 0-1. Leicester City saw off Crystal Palace rather convincingly 3-0. Man United beat AFC Bournemouth 5-2. And Wolverhampton Wanderers were beaten at home by Arsenal 0-2. So yes, the Premier League still marching on, and that leaves Bournemouth, yes, stuck in 19th place in that relegation zone, in trouble. 4 losses and a draw over the last 5 games, even though they're only 1 point behind Watford. The Watford and Aston Villa now, who are in that sort of scrap along with West Ham, have all got a game in hand over Bournemouth. So they'll be looking at trying to get some sort of points there. At the top, well, Liverpool obviously champions, and currently Man City, Leicester City and Man United in those top 4 important European positions. But Chelsea have got a game in hand and can climb up there if they get a win. Moving on to the best football league in the world, the Belarusian Premier League, because it kept on going throughout and gave us something to talk about. Over there in that, Bate lost to Energex 0-1 to see Energex coming back into the top 3. Gorodea and Verbesk fought out a 2-2 draw. Yes, you can hear a little whoop in the background there from Stephen. And Neyman Gordon beat Islosh 1-0. Bate still sit top of the league, but Neyman Gordon do have a game in hand still to play. That's from those couple of rounds when Minsk were had to pull out of the or had to be due to coronavirus, missed 2 rounds of the competition. So they've got some games to catch up on there. 3 more games tonight, and then we'll also bring you the table tomorrow. I'm going to hand you over to the whooping Stephen, who will take us through our birthdays today.
Yeah, it's a pretty sad state of affairs when you've got to start whooping for 1 point on the table. It's been lean pickings, unfortunately, for Gorodea in the last month or so. But it's not lean pickings for our birthday recipients that are coming up today. And good morning, everybody viewing New Zealand Sports Radio this morning, your second day of your bumper weekend. In birthdays today, a former New Zealand opening batsman who has coached both India and New Zealand, a well-travelled New Zealander utility back, and finally, a former NRL outside back plying his trade in Northern Hemisphere rugby, and that's where we start things today. Kupavuna, born this day, the 5th of July 1987, is a professional rugby footballer who plays on the wing for Newcastle Falcons in the RFU Championship. He played rugby league as a wing for the New Zealand Warriors and the Newcastle Knights in the NRL before switching to rugby union to play Super Rugby for the Melbourne Rebels. Following a string of defensive performances to rival the best in the global game in the Northern Hemisphere, it is rumoured Vuna will be nominated for World Player of the Year. This ahead of a prospective move to Super Rugby. We'll have to check on that one, Paul. That's quite the call. Tom Marshall, born this day, the 5th of July 1990, is a New Zealand rugby union player who plays it as a midfield back, fullback, and on the wing for the Red Hurricanes in Japan's top league. Formerly, he played for the Chiefs in Super Rugby and Tasman Marcos in the then ITM Cup before in December 2014 moving to England for the 2015-2016 season. Marshall was educated at Nelson College between 2004 and 2008. It was announced in June 2020 that Marshall had left Gloucester to join Japanese side Red A Hurricanes, a side under the leadership of former Gloucester man Johan Ackermann. And finally, John Wright, MBA, born this day, the 5th of July 1954, is a former international cricketer who captained and coached New Zealand. He made his international debut in 1978 against England. During his career, he scored more than 5,000 test runs, the first New Zealand test player to do so, at an average of 37.82 per dismissal with 12 test centuries, 10 of them in New Zealand. He also played for Derbyshire in England, and first-class cricket. He scored over 25,000 runs, having scored over 50 first-class centuries. He scored 10,000 runs in List A limited overs cricket. Following his retirement in 1993, he coached the India national cricket team from 2000 to 2005, beg your pardon, and New Zealand from 2010 to 2012. Just want to say hello to my cousin Beverly, who's watching the show as well. But that's the birthdays for everybody today. There we go. Paul, back to you with a bumper edition of Rugby League this morning.
Another bumper edition. Wow, it's always great to have family support. So thank you very much, Beverly, for joining us this morning in the, what it must be, which is an early start on a Sunday. Moving on to our rugby news, and Dan Carter has turned out for his club down in Canterbury for Southbridge against Ellesmere down there. Unsurprisingly, Southbridge came away with the win when you got someone like Dan Carter at the helm. 54-14, though, was a big win there. You've got to say, perhaps more surprisingly, Dan Carter actually played the full 80 minutes, which is rare. Well, a lot of the time when when players go back to play for their clubs, there's a stipulation that they can only play X minutes, and they have to get pulled straight after that. So good to see Dan Carter come through, have a full 80, and also kick 12 points. He missed one of his 7 conversions in that game. Moving on to the Super Rugby then, and the Highlanders faced the Crusaders down there under the roof, but that didn't help the players early on when we had 3 knock-ons in the first 4 minutes. So yes, some rustiness being shown by these two sides. In a to and fro first half, the Highlanders managed to slot over a kick just before half-time to lead 17-14. But it was controlled really by the Crusaders in that second half, even if they couldn't put it away, not being as clinical as we've seen in previous seasons. It finished 20-40. But to be fair, 2 tries in the last 5 minutes really blew this scoreline out. It was 20-26 with 5 minutes to go. So yes, it was within a score. The Crusaders scored one. The Highlanders then were throwing it around and gave up a bit of a soft try. So yes, whilst it looks like a blowout, this one was a close one all of the way until the last couple of minutes. Followed that up with the Brumbies versus the Rebels, and in a error-strewn first half, and where neither side could get used to the laws, the Brumbies pulled out a 19-6 lead, essentially using their line out to cause the damage, the line out more to cause the damage there. Come the second half, they got themselves another score. They scored early on as well to pull out to 24-6, but then the Rebels mounted a real comeback, played some nice rugby, hadn't really been able to put anything together up until just before the hour mark, really. And then the Rebels suddenly start playing and pulled it back to 24-23. They got within a point, but the Brumbies then showed why they are the favourite team to win the new the Super Rugby AU over there, and another line-out maul saw them close the game out 31-23. A host of new laws over there in that one, just like we've had over here in Super Rugby Aotearoa. A few new ones there. For me, it was interesting. They have this 50-22 and 22-50, but you can't pass back in to the 50 and then make the kick. So that one led to some confusion by the players, thinking they would have the line out when they didn't. And also, if you touch down in your own area when it's being kicked in, it's a dropout from under the posts. There's no more 22 dropouts in this one. So that was another surprise as well. I definitely caught one of the players out with that, I think. They're going to settle into it, and it'll be interesting to see how these laws continue on. Going to hand you back now to Stephen, who's going to take us through our NRL update.
Thank you, Paul, and good morning again, everybody. Well, in league news this morning, the Sharks were far too good for the Titans. The Warriors are back in the winning circle, and there was a thriller at Bankwest Stadium between the Tigers and the Panthers. I'll tell you all about that shortly, but we'll start with our first game of the day. The Sharks have won their third consecutive game after thrashing the Titans 40 points to 10. The Titans threatened early with a powerful run from new recruit Corey Thompson, who crossed the line to score what looked to be the first of the afternoon, but it was disallowed due to a knock-on in earlier play. Not long after, Cronulla's Braden Hamlin Uele, who was a late swap for Andrew Fafita, got the first 4-pointer off a perfectly timed Matt Moylan pass. Gold Coast answered back, and Thompson eventually got his try after scooping the ball from a wayward pass and sprinting 80 metres to score. Soon after, Fafita, the big man, rolled over the line to edge Cronulla out, but with 5 minutes left before halftime, the Titans NRL debutant Bo Thurmore fired down the field after a double pump pass from Ash Taylor sent him through Cronulla's flimsy defence. The Titans capitalised off the leg, and try-scoring machine Anthony Don crossed over in the corner. Taylor and Firma combined again just moments later to produce the exact same play, but a knock-on from Tyrone Peachey. Now, he's the son of former Cronulla man David Peachey, who also played State of Origin. He put a stop to it. The Sharks came out firing in the second half. Sean Johnson's footwork was at its finest as he found space and set up Britton Nikora and then Blake Brayley just minutes later in an identical play. Cronulla extended their lead as rookie forward Royce Hunt pushed his way over to score his first NRL try. And just minutes later, veteran winger Bryson Goodwin put the icing on the cake with an easy try in the final 3 minutes. That final score again, Cronulla 40, Gold Coast Titans 10. In our second game of triple header Saturday, we move on to the Warriors Broncos, and guess who called that result? Yes, this guy right here. The Warriors have beaten the Broncos 26-16 in a thriller at Central Coast Stadium. The Broncos led 10-0, but somehow found a way to lose to make it their worst losing streak in 8 years. That now stands at 6 games. Coaches under pressure. Anthony Seibold. Greg Alexander called it one of the best wins of the year by the Warriors, but the Broncos season has gone from bad to worse. They won't want to get on the plane home, Alexander said. The Warriors lost Cody Nikorima to a bad head clash with Tavita Pangai Jr. to put them on the back foot earlier. The Broncos opened the scoring with a try to Xavier Coates in the corner to take an early lead. Coates then made a brilliant intercept and ran the length of the field to score his second to extend the lead to 10. Jared Beale set up Ken Mamalo for a try in the corner just before the break to cut the Broncos' lead to 4 at halftime. The Warriors started the second half the strong with a try to Ignatius Passy. However, a booming bomb from Anthony Milford found grass, and Herbie Farnworth jumped onto it to see the Broncos retake the lead. The Warriors were denied a try to Ken Mamalo that would have given them the lead due to a controversial obstruction by Anthony Milford. Didn't seem like a hell of a lot in that particular try. However, Wade Egan made up for it when he crashed over in the 69th minute to give the Warriors the lead. Ken Mamalo scored his double with a freak finish in the corner to seal a famous win for the Warriors. Asaya Papali scored the match-clinching try in the 79th minute as the Warriors went wild. The Broncos players were left in tears following another horror night that promised so much. That final score again, the New Zealand Warriors 26, the Brisbane Broncos 10, and that was after the Broncos led by 10 points to 6 at half-time. And our final game of the weekend, and probably the game of the weekend, the Panthers have edged out the Tigers 19-12 after the West Tigers had led 10-6 at half-time in a tight contest played at Bankwest Stadium last night. It was all Penrith from the moment they kicked off, but the Tigers weren't going to lay down and cop it. A huge Viliami Kikau hit just 20 seconds into the game forced Luke Gardner to cough up the ball. The Panthers capitalised off the big moment, and the gun centre, Stephen Crichton, who's having a great season, crossed over to score the first try of the match. But the Tigers remained in it and kept a roaring Panthers outfit from conceding again before Matt Eisenhuth scored right under the black dot to level the scores up. Craziness erupted in the final 8 minutes of the game as the Tigers' Josh Reynolds scooped up a knock-on from Penrith's Dylan Edwards. He passed it on to Tom Mikaeli, who got tackled just inches from the line. A quick pass from Harry Grant and a bat-on from Moses Mumbai sent the young gun Tommy Tallow over in the corner to give the Tigers the lead leading into halftime. The second half was just as intense as the first, as both teams, but it was the Penrith Panthers who struck first. Crichton got his second on the night off a Jerome Luai to snatch back the lead. The two nearly combined to score another when Luai passed over the top to Crichton, who chipped back to Luai, but it was the Tigers' Luciano Leilua, what a great name, Luciano, who sensationally collected the ball in goal and pushed it his way back into the field. The game came to a screeching halt when Leilua was left laying on the ground after an accidental knock to the jaw from Api Koroisau in a tackle. But before Luciano could leave the field, tension reached boiling point when his brother Joey shoved Koroisau for an approaching Luciano to say sorry. Wow. Koroisau was put on report, and Adam Dohi kicked the penalty to level the scores at 12 or 20 minutes to go on the clock. Penrith coach Ivan Cleary held his breath as his son and field goal extraordinaire Nathan got tangled in a tackle just with 11 minutes on the clock, but he was able to get up and play on. A good thing he did, because he kicked the field goal to give Penrith the lead, and with just 8 minutes left on the clock, Dylan Edwards then sealed the win, scoring under the black dot after an explosive dummy half run from Koroisau. The game wasn't done just yet, though, in what could be considered a fitting ending to an emotional clash. A fired-up Joey Leilua coat hanged Dylan Edwards for no reason, and all this happened in the final 2 minutes, and he was sent to the sin bin. So that final score again in a pretty fiery old clash at Bankwest saw the Panthers come away 19-12, and they're looking like one of the contenders as well this season, Paul, along with the Eels, the Storm, and the Roosters, probably maybe the four sides to watch. And finally, in games today, I said it was going to be a big morning to wrap up all the games in round 8. The Manly Sea Eagles play the Newcastle Knights at Lottoland Stadium. I don't know where Lottoland Stadium, but that kicks off at 6:05 p.m. New Zealand time. And our final game of what has been a big weekend is the Canterbury Bulldogs take on the South Sydney Rabbitohs at Bankwest Stadium, the overused Bankwest Stadium, at 8:30 p.m. New Zealand time. That's it for league for the moment, but we'll be back tomorrow morning with a full wrap, and we'll have the table and see how everybody's sitting. Good to see the Warriors get back into the winning cage, so to speak, or back on the rails, I think I'm trying to say. That's it for league news this morning. Back to you, Paul. Boy, what some great names come out of league, don't you say, Paul?
Absolutely. And you got to say, also the thing is that the best sponsorship deal of anyone at their Bankwest? Getting pretty much every game in their stadium and getting all the money for their sponsorship, definitely for them. Yeah, well, so yes,
it's creating a lot of injuries, but boy, they're getting a lot of mileage.
Yeah,
Bankwest Lotto Land. Thank you, Hugh. Is the old Brookvale Oval, Manly's home ground. Thank you for that, Hugh. So I can recall that. I think the All Blacks and the Wallabies used to. No, I'm thinking of Concord Oval, not Brookvale Oval. Just disregard anything I said in the last 20 seconds. I'll throw back to you, Paul. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you very much, Stephen. And moving on to the ANZ Premiership, and the Pulse really showed that they are going to be the team to try and stop. 47-40 was their win over the Steel last night in a perfect shooting record. That's right. Dunn was 22 from 22, and Ekanasio was 25 from 25. So well done to the Pulse there. Really won it on their intercepts, 6 intercepts to only 2 by the Southern Steel to go along with that perfect shooting record. That sees them then on 4 wins from 4 games, equal top of the table with the Northern Mystics, who are 4 wins from 5 games. The Pulse will be back out on court again tonight, taking on the Magic, who are having a tough season. 1 win from their 3 games so far. Moving on to the NZNBL, and boy, the Franklin Bulls really have turned things around. They beat the Manawatu 2 Jets 83-72 last night. That's 4 wins now on the bounce after 2 losses. And in their game, you've got to say it was the big men who really dominated this, forcing the Manawatu 2 Jets to basically take 3-pointers rather than to shoot in close. And then obviously with the lower conversion rate, only with a 25% success rate from 3 points rather than that 61% success rate from 2 points, meant that the Manawatu 2 Jets just didn't get the points on the board there. So yeah, good defense by the Franklin Bulls, dominating the paint there. That was followed up by a really anticipated game between the Rams and the Otago Nuggets, the 2 early pace setters who have both stumbled recently. And the Nuggets came away with this one. Oh, by the way, the Manawatu 2 Jets, part of that going for the 3 points is probably because they're a team that we know does lack a bit of height in there. And so lacking those bigger players, they just couldn't force their way in under the basket. Country Rams versus the Otago Nuggets was 77-87, a 10-point win for the Nuggets. They really needed that one. And again, it was, and you got to say, yeah, good turnout for the Nuggets there, especially when they lost the rebounding battle, 51-35. So well done to the Nuggets getting that one up there, and perhaps free throws were a bit of a problem for the and penalties were a bit of a problem for the Canterbury letting the Otago Nuggets go to that free throw line where they were deadly last night. So yes, big win there for Otago Nuggets. 77-87. This means that we have a new team at the top of the table. The Franklin Bulls have now climbed top. Behind them, the Rams and the Airs, and also the Otago Nuggets. The Rams and the Airs on 3 wins. The Nuggets they've only played 4 games so far, 2 wins, 2 losses. That looks wrong to me. I'm pretty sure they've got another win in there. Then the Giants on 2 wins, and same with the Manawatu 2 Jets, and the Auckland Huskies at the bottom of the pack with just that 1 win. So yes, you are listening to New Zealand Sports Radio, and you have now started the day the best way, up to date with all of the important sports news. Sorry, getting a bit croaky here. Don't forget, you can listen to us on the move. Just download New Zealand Sports Radio on your favourite podcasting app, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or Acast, or your favourite podcatcher. Have a wonderful day, folks. We'll be back again this evening at 8 p.m, rounding up all of the Super Rugby AU and Super Rugby Aotearoa action. So do join us at 8 p.m. this evening here on New Zealand Sports Radio.